We need some background music. Bow chicka bow wow.
You know, we do I don't know if people can hear us or not.
Always assume yes, Piper.
Right. So I have some political things I'm just kidding. We do an Instagram live, and we originally didn't have music along with it. And now we put music in it because it really does bring it up. So we'll remember that for next time. Hi everyone, welcome. We'll get started in just a moment. Thank you for being here.
Welcome, Robin. Welcome, Brooke. We see you out there.
It is beautiful outside, and that is a positive. That was one of the things that did get me out of bed this morning, thinking, oh, not only do I get to talk to fun people, but it's gorgeous outside. Summer, what is your favorite thing to do when it gets cold?
My favorite thing is like the pumpkin patches. And so I love the pumpkin patches and I love being able to wear a scarf and not sweat.
Wear a scarf. And oh, look at you. You've got your scarf on right now.
Yeah, I did today. I wore a scarf today. So
I love it. I love it. Kendall, what's your favorite thing to do when it's cold outside?
Oh, I love the first day we get to turn on the fireplace. So I went to yoga at 5 a.m., but I came home and my two dogs, my two kids, and my husband are all in like a little U right around the fireplace eating their breakfast. So that's what starts to feel like fall.
I love that. I like that. It's as if you don't have other heat in your house. I like the image of it.
I know.
Last night, my children were asking if they could hang out by the stove because it was warm there. I was like, oh, guys. Yes. Kristy, what about you? What's your favorite thing to do?
I like being able to wear my long sleeve, comfy shirts, and it's just relaxing. That's the thing.
And flannel pajamas too. I'm a big fan of the flannel pajamas.
Oh yeah, that too.
Hi, James. Hi, Joel. Good to see your names pop up. Woo!
Well, y'all, Kendall's busy welcoming everybody, which I love. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's really, really wonderful to be here with these amazing people that I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But before we get started, I'm going to just take a minute, if it's okay, and give a little bit of information about I Live Here, I Give Here for all of those of you that are new to us and to our organization. So just so you know, I Live Here, I Give Here is a nonprofit organization, and we're on a mission to get people in Central Texas to give back. And we do that by helping them cultivate and create deeper connections with all the issues and the nonprofits serving those issues that they care so much about. Our community-wide programs like Amplify Austin Day, which is held in March, and all of our year-round specialty programming like our board training program and education opportunities like this are for businesses, nonprofits, and individuals, and it's all geared toward making giving just as easy for everyone as is possible. Here at I Live Here, I Give Here, we envision a Central Texas where every community member is engaged in giving. We talk about sort of building a generosity movement and really making a Central Texas where everyone knows that in this community, we give back. We are generous. We give back our time. We give back our resources. We give back. And you can learn more about everything that we do and about all of our programs and our events like this one at ilivehereigivehere.org. So thanks for letting me take just a minute. I'm so grateful that you all are joining us today. It's wonderful to be with you. I think that, so this is a series that we're doing to talk with folks about giving back and how to give back and what that means to give back. And so, the easiest, most obvious way that people give back is through their financial resources. And I think one of the things that I'm really excited about today is that we have 3 people that are going to talk to us about giving back of financial resources in great, smart ways. But we also have 3 people that are giving back in such a variety of ways and can really tell us a number of things about their giving. Because sometimes when money is tight and there's so much need, you really have to think about how to make a meaningful contribution. And so the goal today is to really get you set up for giving success this holiday season and for the end of the year. So today you're going to hear from some amazing donors and a financial expert. And we're also going to be providing you with a financial plan that you can use to sort of think about working through where you want to give your resources, how you give your resources, and what that might mean. So with that, I'm going to briefly introduce these 3 women, and then I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit more because I know that people have things to say. And then I'm going to go into some questions for you all. So starting off, we have Kendall Antonelli, who's the co-founder and owner of Antonelli's Cheese. And I'm going to let her tell you this, but she is currently at their 2nd location and it looks beautiful. We also have Summer McAfee, who is the community relations manager at CONSUELA Bags. And if you don't already own a CONSUELA bag, you should definitely get one because they do great work in the community too. And then we have Kristy Holmes-Hetzel, CPA at Tax Compliance and Advisory at Maxwell, Locke, and Ritter. Thank you all very much for joining us. So just a point here, if anybody has a question during the panel discussion, please add them to the Q&A, and then we'll answer questions more towards the end. So I just did the name basic intro, but I would really love to hear for just a few minutes from Kendall and Summer. And Kristy, actually, let me know if you would like to talk about this too. But from Kendall and Summer, the reason that you were invited to speak is that you all both work for businesses that are doing incredible work giving back to the community. CONSUELA and Antonelli's Cheese, you guys do such an incredible job of finding the nonprofits, finding the causes, getting employees engaged, getting the company engaged, and really doing that in a professional way. But in addition to that, in your personal lives, you all are also thinking strategically about how you give back, whether you are helping to do you're co-chairing an event, or you're working with girls on giving grants, or you are on a board, or you are working as a volunteer with returned veterans. Like everything you all are doing, championing mental health, whatever you're doing, the fact that you're doing it personally and professionally is incredible. So with that, I would love to have you each just tell us a little bit more about how you give back, and then I'll dig and who you are, and then I'll dig into some questions. So Summer, what you got for us?
Hey, good morning, everyone. So when I think about who I am and how I give back, I mean, really for me, I would say giving back has been at the foundation of who I am. I grew up as a military brat, and our family, my dad was enlisted. And so as an enlisted family, we had hard times as well. So financially, we had different organizations help us. And so I think even as a kid, I knew when I became an adult, when I could pay it forward, I wanted to do that. And so really my giving back is inspired from that. People helped my family along the way. And so I feel in little ways and sometimes a little bit bigger ways, I want to give back and make a difference as well. And so I feel like that's what has always been center for me. And so I feel like no matter financially what I've had, I've always been committed to giving a little bit of it back into my community, especially the organizations who are doing so much goodness. I mean, there's always different causes that are close to my heart. But I also feel like there's a thing that I think of all the time, which is like, I call it spreading the love. And so I like to spread the love a little bit. And so I actually rotate the nonprofits that I give to based on the quarters. And that way I can give to a little bit to different organizations and different causes, but also so I can stay within my own financial budget as well. So while I would love to give to all the causes that I love, I can't do that financially right now. So what I do is I pick a couple, and then each quarter I rotate who I'm giving to that way. So that's me, a little bit about me.
I love it. And I love the origin story for how that happens too. growing up, we gave back. We volunteered. We made donations, not big. None of us here are billionaires, but that was where I learned it, and that's how I learned giving back. So I really appreciate the origin of that. Kendall, what about you? Tell us more.
Hi, y'all. I'm excited to be here. So yeah, our background, similar and not at all to Summer's, but just that in case my in-laws are watching, I'm going to give kudos to my parents and my in-laws that both John and I, service has always been important to us. So that had to come from somewhere, and witnessing them. And I don't even know what money donations my parents made growing up, but I know that they were always doing things in the community. Their business was community driven and impoverished. It was creating dental clinics in impoverished areas that didn't have access, from Houston neighborhoods to Honduras to Nepal, the world's highest dental clinic. So they served people through their medium of dentistry and public health. And I just do it today through cheese. So we'll get to that in a little bit. And then John's parents are guided by their strong Lutheran faith and their give back. And so John and I met, that's my partner. We both opened Antonelli's Cheese. We met at college at Georgetown University in Washington, DC, which does have a strong Jesuit component and servant leadership component. John was in a service group there. And so both of us, my background and degree and master's have a component of nonprofit management in them. Before I worked at Antonelli's Cheese or opened that, I worked at the Guatemala Human Rights Commission, a nonprofit. I worked at the Organization of American States and Conflict Resolution. And then what brought me to Austin was working for a nonprofit called Political Asylum Project of Austin, or PAPA. Now it's American Gateways. For 5 years, I ran the Immigrant Victims of Crime Protection Project. So I come to you as a small business owner. Although I joke, when John and I wanted to open a small business, he's a CPA by trade, a certified public accountant. And I said, with your ability to crunch the numbers and my ability to basically work for free at a nonprofit, surely we can make this work at a business. And nowadays, I still feel like our business is a nonprofit, but that's again for later on about how we do things with limited resources. Both, just a little bit out there, both John and I have won the Austin Under 40 Award. That's specifically for half of what your professional achievements are, but half is what your community give back is. And then I think the best award we've won as a business, and I see that Joel Kaufman is on here with Recognize Good, but we won a Generous Business Award. So to me, that's the biggest achievement, I think, in my cap, based off of when we wrote our business plan 17 years ago. We're coming up on our 15-year anniversary, which, by the way, I say like entrepreneurship years are like dog years. So I feel like we've made it 100 years, just each year we carve out. But for us, we wrote in the business plan that we want to give back and support the community that supports us. We literally know that we're only alive when people walk through our doors and give us their hard-earned dollar. And so we want to make sure that we're responsible with that hard-earned dollar. So it all goes into, we are mission driven as a business. Our mission is to do good, eat good. For us, that means we support artisans who make their cheese in a way that's sustainable for the earth, humane for their animals, treating their teams ethically. Most importantly, it's got to be delicious. But then when people come in and pay that dollar to us, they know we're supporting that, but also we're giving back to our community. So we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how we choose to give back and where we give back, because we receive about 25 to 30 donation requests a week. It is a full-time job to manage that program. So I will get there. And yes, we are an often non-profitable small business. So I'm excited to share some of our tips and tricks. And I think the only thing I'll leave it with right now, Piper, before throwing it back to you live from our new kitchen, is I love this concept of redefining philanthropy. Forever, I think I thought of it as old, white, nice dudes giving their big checks. And by the way, we need old, white, nice dudes giving their big checks, and grateful for that, but never really thinking of myself as a philanthropist. And through organizations like Impact Austin and community grant giving and being involved in a grant review process, and then I live here, I give here, I realized that many of us are all philanthropists already. We're already doing all these things. And so one, I want to recognize the people out there in the community who are doing things that isn't a traditional handing over a big check. So I think if anything we come away from today, they used to always talk about the 3 T's of philanthropy, but now it's the 4, and it's, treasure, which is money. Oh, I can't wait to learn 5, Piper. Okay. I know treasure. I know your time. I know your talent. And I love the concept of testimony, because for us as a business, when we couldn't ever afford to give back, we used our reach of 70,000 followers to just highlight missions of nonprofits and include it in our newsletter, which got a really high open rate, and all of this of like, we can't physically or financially support them right now, but look at what these people are doing. So I can't wait. I'll throw it back to you to find out what the fifth one is.
The fifth one is ties.
Okay, got it.
And connecting people. So yeah, so making sure that if you are on the board of some organization, you connect the ED with the marketing person at Yeti, for example, which was a great conversation. I was very grateful for that tie that I got. So things like that. Yeah. But now there are 5 T's, and I love that. Kendall, Giving Tuesday is coming up. And I think that the messaging of Giving Tuesday is very much what you just said, that philanthropy doesn't have to be the old white guys. It needs to be, but it's also every single one of us giving $5, donating an hour of your time, making sure that your neighbor's cat has food when they're out of town, taking cookies to your kid's teacher, whatever it is, small, big, informal, formal, but like that give back piece is all philanthropy. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Kristy, I would love to hear from you a little bit. First of all, let me just say, Kristy is also with MLR, and MLR is an incredible organization that is giving back to the community so well, and gives back to I Live Here, I Give Here. So Kristy, thank you so much for being with. You want to tell us a little bit about how you're giving back, and maybe how MLR is giving back?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it stems from them, how much they encourage us to be a part of the community, to be on boards, seeing the giving that they have done. Earl Maxwell was our founder, and I don't know how many boards he was on here in Austin back in the day. So it's just something very, very big and meaningful to the firm. They let you set aside firm hours to go be on a board, volunteer. That's part of your work day. It can be. So they're very encouraging of it. And, we used to have days when we were smaller and the whole firm would go and work at Capital Area Food Bank. Now we're so big, you've got to sign up to go do that work day because they don't have enough room for us all. But with that, the big Amplify Austin Day is huge. I know that's a lot of times when I do a lot of my giving to my various things that I'm interested in, and it changes. It really does. It's, right now, I would say it's centered around my school, my daughter's school, her PTA work, and they were in Amplify Austin this last year. So I was very grateful I was able to donate to them. And, and the animals, my daughter, so everything, it's kind of with her, it changes for us, various, and I see what I can give at that point in time. And that's what I do. And I give them at that point.
I love it. Thank you so much. There's a member of our board, Leslie Hargraves, is at MLNR, and she facilitates a gift that MLNR matches, which I'm so grateful for, which leads me to also say Summer McAfee is also on the board of I Live Here, I Give Here, and is just a wonderful board member, and we're very grateful for her. So I'm very grateful to all of you for talking about what professionally and how your companies are giving back. I would love to pivot a little bit to talk more about personally. And when you're thinking about your giving, the question that I have here is, how do you think about your annual giving? What is the process that you have for putting together your annual giving plan? And I need to say to you that I have a donor advised fund that I use to give money to different organizations. But I'm not strategic about this. And so I am really looking forward to learning about how it is I think about this in a little bit more holistic and strategic way. So with that, Kendall, do you want to start us off this time?
Sure. First of all, I do have notes if I keep looking down. There's not a dog around me, and that's because I'm known to be unscripted and just go off into left field, which is fun sometimes. So we'll see where that goes. do we have a giving plan each year? That's so cute that you asked, Piper. Okay, so sure, we have a giving plan. It's like on paper. Do I follow it? Do I ever follow any script or plan? No. What I do is I both in our personal lives and professional lives identified where we want to make an impact. In the old days for both, I would just donate to everything, or that sounds very generous. I didn't have a focus. It was like, that's a good organization. That's a good organization. Now, it doesn't mean I can't go beyond this, but I've really leaned into, and my husband too, we both want to donate to areas personally in mental health. I'm a survivor of depression. I was hospitalized after a particularly scary night in college. That was 20 years ago. Last year, I got diagnosed with anxiety, and I'm on a whole new journey again. And my husband was diagnosed in 2018 with PTSD and depression. So both of us are out loud and proud of it in our journey and our struggles. And we find that in owning our own vulnerability and sharing it with others, we're creating community and hopefully destigmatizing mental illness. But along those lines, that's where we're choosing to put a lot of our bucket. So I was on the board of the Austin Child Guidance Center, which provides free and low-cost services, mental health services to youth and their families. Another place, and we were a NAMI Walks Chair, National Alliance on Mental Illness, Central Texas. And that year, my team won, only because I had some competitive participants, and Sheriff Sally Hernandez, her team, who they do great things every year, was like edging us out. And one of the competitive people on my team was like last minute donation. So it's good to stack your teams with those people. But also that person turns out was going through a struggle, and I didn't know it, but because I shared it, then that really spoke to them. The other area that we're really choosing to lean into as much as we can, and I say this with a little hesitation because I don't want to be performative or with any grandstanding. We can always do more, but in DEIB work, so diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, although there's lots of different ways people say it now, idea, action. For us, both my husband are white. We present as white, although he gets the benefit of presenting as a lot of things, so he can really blend in anywhere. But we have certain privileges to us and for our children that we recognize other people haven't had. For instance, I can own my story of mental health because I'm my own boss, so nobody's going to retribute against me. I use that word rightly. And then I think because of the way I look, I was given special treatment when I was in the psychiatric ward that I didn't see across the board. And I've only later noticed that years in hindsight. So because of that, our goal is to make spaces that we're in, look around and see who's not there, who doesn't feel like they belong. How can we go out and find out from people how it would be more meaningful to them, which is actually why we both just signed on to be honorary co-chairs of the Thinkery. They're going to be launching a new capital campaign. It's the Austin Children's Museum here. For us, the specific reason, and John is past president, that we're leaning in is one, they created an open door policy, open door school, both in the Red Box on campus in Mueller. But right now they're practicing this innovative model out in Del Valle where they're worked with the community to see what they want. It's a preschool by day. High schoolers from Del Valle are getting paid for training on site about STEAM education, and they get to go out into the world. And so anyway, if this model works, it's a model that can go nationwide for children's museums partnering up with education, which we know education is so underfunded and under-resourced. And I don't know how anybody takes care of my kids every day. I can't even do it. So personally, long story, we're mental health and DEIB. Something we talked about before, Piper, is like, how do we get our kids involved? And we're really, I just started thinking of it this way minutes ago, but have you ever heard of the concept of habit stacking? How do I live my life? Well, it's like brush your teeth and do your core at the same time. Like if you can put two things together, you get to check off two things. I would also like to call it like an overachiever, but I realize I've been habit stacking in my life. For instance, our family trips every year, we go a month abroad now, not in the early days, but now we have a great team, a month abroad, and we visit cheesemakers, but it's our family vacation. And why? We love to do that. It's food, but it's also work, but we get to bring our kids into that sphere. And so I've never been good at separating work and play. And to me, it's all one mixing pot with certain boundaries is the way I live my life. So for instance, habit stacking, philanthropy, and my time with my kids, like I said, immigration is an important topic to me. When done during a past president's policies, which by the way, immigration reform needs to happen regardless of which party is in, and both parties are complicit in our current system. So I'll just say that. But we went down to the border when you're legally allowed to claim asylum based on our laws at the border. And program was stopped. And so it created all these tent cities. So we actually took our kids down and volunteered with this group called Team Brownsville. They're amazing. They're doing this every single day. And they were like, you're going to bring your kids? We're like, we weren't sure if it was a smart idea just because we weren't sure about safety, but we made huge prepped meals. The day we got there, it was for 400 people. Well, they had an influx. And the next day when we were serving, it was for 1,000 people. We organized a whole group, made hot meals. We wanted to make really nutritious meals, and then it had to turn into Frito pie, because how do you overnight double for 1,000 people? But anyway, we walked it across the border, set up, and then my kids just handed out juice boxes. But now I can say, not only did we do this service, something that's important to me, but my kids have active lived experience. And when they hear this rhetoric being thrown around, they can say what their lived experience that they have seen with their own eyes. So I talked too long for that, except to say, those are our buckets: mental health, DEIB, immigration is always, and human rights for me. But then, yeah, how do we incorporate it in everything we do? So I think the way to answer your question is, I don't look at it as a bucket of our lives. It's just like DEIB should be in everything we do, in my workplace and my volunteerism and this and that. So too should our philanthropy, and so too should my kids be involved. And so how are we putting it all together in a holistic way?
Oh my goodness. The only problem with you telling us all of that in one fell swoop is that I have so many things I want to respond to. No, it's amazing. First of all, I could really make an argument for why Frito pie is nutritious, by the way. But that I just really want to thank you for continuously talking about mental health, sharing your experience, making sure that we all know that it's something that all of us are connected to. And I'm really grateful for that. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking about the buckets. And thank you for talking about how you're integrating it into every part of your life. Thank you for introducing me to habit stacking. I'm now going to be working on my core while I brush my teeth. So this was just, you never know what's going to come out of something. It's just, thank you very much.
Be careful, that does lead to drooling and scenarios, but you got it. Maybe start with a different habit stacking.
Sticking with that one. Sticking with that one. I'm going to come back to you in a few minutes, and I want to hear more about the family conversation piece. But I'm going to go to Summer now. Summer, can you tell us a little bit about, when you're thinking about your annual giving, do you have a plan? How are you thinking? And as we're approaching the end of the year, what are you thinking about your annual giving?
Yeah. So when I thought about like my annual giving and how I give back, one of the things I would say is I was one of those people that always wanted to give to everything that came to my mailbox. And I jokingly say, like, I think every nonprofit in the city has my address now, because I get flyers and ask from everyone. So at first I wanted to give to everybody. And then I started working with a personal financial coach, and Ellie really helped me see, like, Summer, you've got to really hone in your giving. Like, I know you want to support a lot of causes. I know you have a big heart for community. But she helped me see, like, have a little bit more strategy. So I would say for me, it was just looking back and pausing and realizing, like, yes, lots of things come to us. And I'm sure all of you that are here today too get lots of different asks on people that want you to give. But I had to start looking at, like, where's the most important areas that I want to support. And so working with her, I started looking at, where do I volunteer? So I went back to, like, where are the places that I'm already giving my time? And so when I think about giving financially, the list starts with the places that I write down. Here are the nonprofits that I've been actually going to and volunteering with at, right? And so those ones get first, what I call first dibs on my list. Like, they're the first ones that are going to go on there because I'm already investing my time there. The other thing I did is start looking at, like, are there small ways that I can actually start thinking about giving, right? So rather than, in my case, make a large gift at a certain time of year, what about some of the organizations that have, like, ongoing giving? So, like, the ones that are asking us to sign up and give like $25 a month, like some of those organizations, giving in that smaller increments allows me to do it and actually plan for it throughout the entire year. So I've looked at it that way as well. And then I've also considered what I would consider some of my habits that I've, like, curtailed a little bit. So I love fried chicken. For any of you that know me, know that I love fried chicken. And so I sometimes tell myself, like, what if you had, like, one less, outing to the fried chicken place, and right now, fried chicken with the sides is usually, I like wings, fried chicken specifically. And so usually you're talking about like $16, $17, right? But then when I think about cutting that back, like one time here and there, that's like funds that I now have available to now give to a nonprofit. And so instead of it thinking of like, you know, you have to add into your budget, it's kind of like me thinking of like, if I ate at home tonight, that actually would allow those funds to actually allow me to give to this other thing that I really care about. And then the last thing I would share about my way of giving is also realizing that as you're in different seasons of your life and as you're moving through different changes that may be happening, is when you're part of different things, like I'm a part of a giving circle that supports Dress for Success Austin. And in full transparency, I don't give at the highest level in the giving circle, right? And that's just because right now with my finances, I'm not able to do that. And so I think it's also being comfortable with giving at the level that you can give. Like, yes, I'm part of the giving circle. I talk about it. I help in other ways, but I also feel like I'm giving back in the giving circle in lots of other ways, not just my dollars. Yes, I am meeting the minimum that we need to give, but I think it's also being comfortable understanding like, you know what, you don't have to give at the biggest level or the highest level. You know, you can give at lower increments, but you're still making a difference. And so I think that for me also helps shape my view on giving back, is not feeling, I guess, I don't know if it's really shame, but I think sometimes it's a little bit of guilt. Like you feel like, oh, I want to give, like I should be giving at the highest level here and I should be giving at the highest level over there. And it's like, for me, I have to remind myself, Summer, you give at a lot of other places. So you're not going to be able to give at the highest level. That's great that they're asking for $1,000. You're not giving $1,000. Like I have to have like these self-talks with myself. Like, nope, you're not giving $1,000. So that's what I do to help myself stay grounded and like you're doing a lot of goodness. And lastly, I'll share is make a list of the places that you are giving to. I think sometimes you, if you're like me, you sometimes forget all the places you are supporting. And sometimes it helps to go back and look at that list. And then you don't feel so much like, oh, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And you have to remind yourself, oh no, I bought tickets to that event. I supported them at this silent auction. I bought this other thing. I mean, so you're giving in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's not just the checks you're writing, it's also in the other ways that you're showing up and supporting these nonprofits. So remind yourself of those. You know, those are also great ways that you're giving back and supporting the organizations in our community.
Summer, I love so many things that you said as well. You know, curtailing the one thing, I love that. I actually love that you're doing it because I say I'm going to do it and then I don't always do it. So I love the pulling off something and then using that money for good. I also love tracking or at least thinking about all the good things that you've done. I was just here sitting thinking I'm on the board of Annie's list. And I'm like, I've not given them enough money this year. Then I remembered I actually make a monthly donation to them and it's small, but it adds up. But that's the way that I'm able to do that with them. So thank you for all of that. You mentioned one thing I wanted to ask you about though. You mentioned a personal financial coach. I think we think of like a financial advisor as someone that those rich white philanthropist men have, right? Tell me about a personal financial coach and just how someone would find one of those.
Yeah, so I actually found her on LinkedIn. And so it was during the season I was much more active on LinkedIn. I've had to take a little bit of a break right now in this current season. But I jokingly say, like, I stalked her for like about 6 months. So I wanted to make sure she was the real deal. So for about 6 to 8 months, I kind of like watched her, you know, her content. I watched her testimonials. I saw like the people she was helping. I wanted to make sure the stories were real. I'm also big on stories. So if you want me to ever give to your nonprofit or you ever want me to support your cause, I'm big on the real stories. And so the thing I loved about Elle is that she always had real stories from real people who were her clients. And so it wasn't just her saying, I'm an amazing financial coach or money coach. It was her clients saying like, hey, I've been working with Elle and now I'm debt free. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what did you do? Like, what is she helping you with? So, and then I like the fact that she wasn't too salesy. Like she didn't like DM me constantly asking me to become a client. When I met with her the first time, it was a very casual conversation. And she understands my passion for giving back. And so I think I also like her very much as my financial coach because she knows that like my heart's in the community. So if she knows I'm one of her clients that's never going to be like, oh yeah, just take that line out, I'm off my budget. Like I'm always going to be the person that's like, oh no, there's a line item for giving back. But she's always like, Summer, balance it. Just balance it. Remember you gave them. So she's like that like voice of reason for me. She never says no, but she always is reminding me, balance, Summer, balance. Like you are doing good things, but you've got to balance how much you want to give back. So yeah, I just found her through LinkedIn though. And she's been amazing and she's super awesome. And I love the fact that she helps me see my blind spots so that I can actually stay in good financial health with my goals, but then still give back into the community.
Okay, well, if people need a personal financial coach, we might ask you for that name and contact and share it with others. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Speaking of balance, Kendall, I wanted to go back to the kid piece. And I was wondering what the conversations look like in your house about with your kids about giving back. Are they, you're actively engaging them? You're both like, I love that you are both doing the money work with the time work and you're melding those things. I love that so much. Kendall, what are you doing in conversation with your kids about the financial giving? Is that something that you all decide together?
Great question. And now you have me going off script, Piper. I have other notes in front of me. All right. This may not exactly answer your question. But there's things that we're stumbling through and we are making mistakes. So I just want to put that out there. But this whole, we don't talk about money growing up. Well, why? Money is how the world works. We're in a capitalist society. Money shouldn't be a shameful thing. So how do we talk about it? Say that our family is pretty lucky and compared to a lot of folks. That my kids go to a private school, but we're the only ones driving up in our beat up car next to a lot of other really nice cars. So, and then be like, oh, we're the poor ones of this. And I'm like, well, we're not poor. We're, so everything is relative. But so we talk about money a lot. I don't know that we've actually had specific conversations about us donating to organizations, but to us, that's where it's still really important to be giving our physical labor and time. So that's what we've been doing with them. For instance, like when the ice storms happened, we had all this food, our power went out and we had all this protein that was going to go to waste and we couldn't resell it. So the kids came with us and we made packages and we went and delivered them under overpasses and to the Millennial Complex and all of that stuff. And by the way, it was nerve-wracking, like rolling up to somebody who looks like they might need it. You're kind of making some bias and assumptions. You roll down the window, but then my kids handing out food, I think was for us the right decision. A couple years ago, we made, well, they were little, we made a book called a Do Good book. And so that is our goal, to be accountable to ourselves. Every once in a while it gets lost and we have to pull it back out and dust it off. And, but that to me is, I want to make sure we're not just talking the talk and we're actually walking the walk. So what are we putting in there and measuring those little things, like Summer said, that we don't always count as doing good for somebody else. And I think the only other thing I think about, when having conversations with our kids is, for us, we have to do a lot of white saviorism talk because one, I'm a big helper. I like to be a big helper. And now I realized how some of my actions in the past the impact may have been different from my intent. So I'm working on that a lot and making sure my kids, and I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I'm just going to say it because I like to own my mistakes and be vulnerable. For instance, after we came back from the border, there would be like somebody walking on the street and my kid would go, oh no, that person's going to get deported. And I'm like, actually, they could just be bored here. So kids often thinks a lot in black and white, and the goal for us is keep having conversations. And I think that can mean that philanthropy work is messy too. And so but I think it's important to talk about white saviorism in that context because that's such a big deal. And so making sure that we're out there supporting communities in need and their efforts and what they're already doing, as opposed to imposing ourselves and what we believe is better, is an important part of that work for us and the kids. I don't know if I really answered your question or not.
No, you totally did. Are you kidding? Absolutely. I also find that my kids are a little bit older than yours, but now I will say to them, I want to say this. Can you help me say this the right way? Because I think the other piece is that, and thank you so much for talking about white saviorism. Thank you for talking about DEIB, but I feel like my kids are much smarter at using words the way that they need to be used. And so I'm really grateful for that. I will say the last thing, and then Kristy, I'm super excited to get your advice. The one thing that we do in our house, because my kids are a little bit older, is every month they get an allowance and they get some money put into savings, and then they get a chunk of money that goes into charitable giving. And then at the end of the year, they get to decide where that money goes. And that has worked for us. But I will admit that they also give to organizations that I'm like, I need your money.
I have heard of that, Piper, and I want to do that with our kids. I keep forgetting, but the save, spend, and donate, or whatever it's called. Yeah.
And then you find yourself making a donation to the World Wildlife Fund and thinking, do they really need that $100? Whatever, it's fine. Kristy, thank you so much for being with us. Okay, so I want to get to you to ask about some of the logistics pieces of giving, and as we're talking about our annual giving, in particular our end of year giving. So there are a lot of myths out there. I think things have changed, and so I want to ask you, what are the tax benefits of us giving when we're thinking about our annual giving and certainly our end of year giving? What do we need to be thinking about when it comes to taxes, if anything?
Well, I will just say whatever I tell my clients typically is I tell my clients, you do not give $1 to save 20, 30 cents. Okay. You're going to give a donation because it's something you really want to do. And what we can do is help you plan the year that you might do it. I've had some clients that we look at it and maybe they're on the cusp because one of the biggest things is I go to Goodwill, I give them something, I get to write that off. Not necessarily, you have to itemize your deductions. And several years ago, the standard deduction raised and it nearly doubled. All right. And so it became a lot harder for people to itemize their deductions at this point in time. So with that, you need to look at it and see. And so with clients, what we do is like we look at real estate taxes that they may pay and itemize, and if they have mortgage interest, and see what those two numbers are. Okay. And then if it's anywhere near the standard deduction, and we look, well, what were you going to give? And they may say, well, I was going to give, a few $1,000s, and that's what I do every year. I'm like, well, maybe instead you stack it. So you give it in January, instead of writing it like December 31st, you write it January 1st of the next year, and then write the next check in that December of that year. You've got 2 years in 1 year, and then maybe you can itemize that year. And so that's one way to look at it, is kind of the planning of it. Another thing to look at that people may not realize is you can donate appreciated stock. So if you had some stock that you have a large capital gain on it, you don't need to sell it to donate money. You can actually give the stock to the organization. And when you do that, you don't pay tax on the capital gain, and then you get to take the deduction. But if you're not able to itemize your deductions, you're not paying tax on the capital gain. So that's kind of a win right there, and you've given to an organization that you cared about. So that's one technique. And the third I think about all the time, and this happens for our older people. And when you're older, you usually don't have a mortgage. Your property taxes may be pretty low. You could be in assisted living, something like that. But the IRS has a rule. If you're 70 and a half, you can give up to $105,000 from your IRA directly to a charity. And so, and then this really works well once you hit 73 and you have what we call a required minimum distribution. And that's when you have to take out of your IRA. And they give you a certain amount. And we have a lot of clients that will give those required minimum distributions just straight to charity, because you do not have to pick it up as taxable income, and you don't get a deduction for it though. So it's, in my mind, it's a win. So if I have a client that they do maybe $2,000 through their IRAs. They have a bunch of small IRAs. They give them to their church. We can't itemize them, but they're doing this. That's not taxable income to them, and it's going to the organization that they wanted to go to. And so it's just, I think it's a really good technique as taxpayers get older to look at it that way.
That is awesome. Okay. So sorry, one logistical question. If I have stock or an IRA and I want to donate that to the nonprofit, how do I do it if I'm just a human?
Your stock, you just talk to your financial advisor, or like a Fidelity, if you're doing it yourself,
Wherever
just tell
the stock
Fidelity.
is.
Yeah. And the thing is you talk to the organizations and you tell them, I'd like to donate stock to you. And they give you a form typically if they take the stock. Some won't take it. But like I know some private schools that our clients donate to, I'll just tell you, they'll take stock.
They will take that stock.
They will take stock. And UT, they'll take a stock donation. But they have a form and you fill it out, and then you give that to your Charles Schwab, your Fidelity, your financial advisor, and they facilitate that. And a lot of times they'll guide you like, yeah, you should give this stock. It's really high. You've gained a lot in it. And I have a client that she inherited some stock she didn't even know about. And I mean, it's just huge gains. And every year that's her donation for her table to a event, is donating the stock. So it's just something to think about. And the IRA, it's the same thing. You can't get it, and you have to be 70 and a half in order to work this. But it, like I said, it's really impactful. It works really well, but it can't come from, you can't get the cash first and then give it. It's got to come directly from the IRA to the charity. And that's when you work with the financial advisors, the custodians of the IRA for that. I had a client years ago. We got her checkbook from her IRA, and she was able to just write them out, and that was her donations, because they gave
great.
Yeah, they gave little bits here and there everywhere, and she couldn't itemize, and so this was perfect. We were able to do this, and
All this down.
yeah, it was just, there's some techniques to do there because of it.
Kristy, can I ask you one last question? Would you talk, I proselytize about DAFs, donor advised funds. I'm obsessed with how well they work for me and my family. But I am not a millionaire. But I am curious to ask you about DAFs, but then also, are there other resources? You've just given us great information. Where else can we go to learn about what else we can be doing to maximize our giving?
I think a donor advised fund is really good. And a lot of times, so what a donor advised fund is you give a certain amount of money, and it's usually, they set up a fund, and it's a nonprofit that kind of holds it. I know that like Raymond James, Charles Schwab, all of them have ways to set up a donor advised fund for you as well.
Austin Community Foundation.
Yes, Austin Community Foundation is a great one, and I have a lot of clients with that one that they do. And you can give, just like, maybe you're not sure who you want to give money to, or I have clients that they had a big event happen and it's near the end of the year, and I really want to give to some charities, but I need to look at it and whatnot. So they'll put in a donor advised fund. So you just put it there, and then as you're wanting to give, you direct the money, the donor advised fund, to pay that organization on your behalf. And you only get the deduction once it's contributed to the donor advised fund. It's not the funds coming out of the DAF. So you have to be careful as a tax advisor. You've got to be careful. Did this come from your DAF, or this come from you personally? There's some limitations on it. You cannot, like, if you have a legal pledge that you've made with some organization, like, I'm going to give you, and you've got it signed, you cannot use your DAF for that, to pay that off. You can only use that for new donations, contributions, and whatnot. And donating appreciated stock is another great way. You can donate it to your DAF as well. And so that we have plenty of clients that do that, as well as they move appreciated stock over to a donor advised fund, and don't pay the gains on the capital, or tax on the capital gains.
That is awesome. Thank you. Do you have, this is such a dumb question, but do you have, like, is there a website, are there resources, like, where, if I'm just completely at a loss for what to do about my charitable giving and the sort of the tax implications, where should I go?
I just was trying to think, and I can't really think of anything like that. I think the only thing I really think about is IRS is a really great website for information. And one of the things that they do have is they have a list of charitable organizations. So if you're ever in doubt on, is this a charitable organization? Because in order for it to be deductible, it's got to be a qualified organization with IRS. You can't give money to GoFundMe. That's not going to be a deduction on for your tax return. Just helping a needy family, writing them a check, that's not a tax deduction. So looking up, IRS has a whole list. They have a charitable nonprofit tab on their website, and you click that, and then it's like qualified organizations, and you just go on there and it'll put in the name, and it'll show you, yes, they're qualified organizations. So that's just a good technique if you needed to verify.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And we will, when we send out the notes from this, we will send that out as well. Thank you so much. Y'all, this is amazing. And so what I would love to do is just offer each of you a chance to give some final thoughts. What it is that you're excited about in your giving towards the end of the year, and any final tips that you have for people as they're really trying to think holistically about how to create their giving plan, no matter how organized or disorganized that might look. Do you mind, Summer, I'm going to start with you. What are your final thoughts? What would you want people to know about your giving or about giving in general?
I think my final thoughts would just be definitely consider all the different ways that you can give, right? So even if you're doing some fall cleaning at your home, some of your items could go to good use. So while you're considering, definitely we're focusing today on financials, don't forget your old books can go to the little free libraries in your community. Your clothes and stuff can go to the Hope Thrift Store, which is supported for our families during disaster relief. That nonprofit there provides free clothing to our families that have been impacted. So there's just lots of different ways that things that you already have around your home that you may not be needing anymore, they can be leveraged as well. And then I would say, when I think about giving, I would say start where you are, right? So don't think about like, I don't have enough to give, or I don't have a lot to give. Remember, $10, $20, $30, that's a good starting point, right? Start where you are, give what you can, and then don't let yourself get any guilt about it. Like just give what you can, feel all the good vibes, feel all the positive energy that you are making a difference, that the $25 is doing great things. You're helping feed families, or you're helping fund a STEM program, or you're helping a veteran get a meal. Whatever you're doing, just feel good about it, and make a plan for the following year. And then in closing, I would just say also consider the things that you maybe don't financially always look at. So for those of you that may have savings accounts, and some of you may have savings accounts that have a pretty nice interest rate on them, or you have investments, think about some of the earnings you're getting from those, and that could also be a source of how you fund some of your charitable giving. So if your budget's a little bit tight, that could be a way to start considering, like, okay, those funds that I'm getting in, I wasn't even planning on those funds, or extra funds, maybe some of that I can give to charity now, as those funds are coming into your account as well. So
That's like the financial version of giving up fried chicken once a month. That's brilliant. I love that. It's so good. Thank you very much for all of that. And I continue to be grateful, Summer, for not only the way you navigate your personal and professional giving, but also the grace that you give yourself and others in like everything that you do that's good is important, and it's important to recognize that. So thank you so much. Kristy, do you want to tell us something? What are your final thoughts?
Kind of the same lines here at the end of the year. It's always the firm's going to put together something that we do for the community, and it's usually bringing in donations for it. So, I'll plan that aside to do that. My daughter's school, I just took up 2 bags full of groceries for Thanksgiving that her NJHS is donating for people. I know we've got all these things here at the end of the year, and you talk about cleaning out your closet. Coats for Kids is going on right now. That's a great way to clean out the old coats, go donate them to a good cause. We do that a lot. That's just, it cleans out the house and helps people. That's a great way.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, Kendall, I'm excited to know what just happened. Did one of the cheeses start talking?
No, somebody's picking up a cheese tray right now. So we are in this is not just a model showroom. This is an operational business. So there's some things happening right now. Hi, welcome in. I'm just wrapping up a little virtual webinar thing here. Okay, so my final thoughts. One, Summer, I loved what you said. Y'all, when I have a lot to say, I just get faster. Okay, Summer, I loved what you said about the guilt we feel. And it reminds me of the whole, like, you got to put on your own face mask first before your kids on an airplane. Like, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to make sure our basic health is covered. We have food in our bellies for those that we love, and a roof over our heads. So by all means, if you're listening to this, have no guilt. That is the first and most thing that you have to do, is take care of yourself. And I love all this new stuff that we're focusing on with health. That's like, we need self-care. And we all say that. We've been saying that for years, but nobody's been really practicing it. Or it's like, yeah, every once in a while, go for a walk or take a pedicure, right? So really, I like letting go of that guilt. If we gave to everybody who came to our business, I wouldn't be in business, and then I can't keep giving to people in the future. So just a way to think about it. Also, Kristy, I know from the tax spot, you said it. I also always love looking up organizations on GuideStar and Charity Navigator. They have ratings. So if somebody wants to randomly give to something, I like to look up and be like, is this really a professional nonprofit? And then, okay, where do I want to end? I guess professionally, if there's small business owners out there, I like to talk about our tips and tricks. So at Antonelli's Cheese, we create what we call an annual philanthropy plan. Get it? A philanthropy plan. A previous team member came up with that. We've had to look at really creative ways to give back because, as I said, we're not always profitable. So some of the ways we've done that is what is truly a win-win. People would always say, can you donate a gift basket to this? And it would be like $100 worth of goods and it would be sitting out somewhere and it goes for $25 and it breaks my heart. That didn't really do anything for my business. Do I ever want to think? Also, if you're making requests, it kind of drives me crazy when people say, this will give you great exposure. Trust us as business owners to know what gives us great exposure. You, as Summer said, sell the story. Tell us why your nonprofit is great and what they're doing. You do you, let us do us. I get 25 requests a week and know a dying gift basket is not really doing something for my brand. So hot tips. So early on, we said, what will be good for us that keeps us in business, but also is great. And so we donate 2 tickets to a cheese tasting. What's great about that for us is we're hosting a cheese tasting anyway. There's only cost of what goes on the plate. The labor's already going to be there. That's valued at $100. People love experiences. It often goes for more than that at the charity I've donated it to. And then it gets them into my business and interacts with me. So maybe I create a customer or fan for life. So really small businesses, you can look at creative ways that's not what people are asking for. And you can say, no, but here's what I can give. And this is what works for me. And it either works for you or not. And I get it. Another thing, during Hurricane Harvey, our team came together and we were like, we have to do something. And it has to be more than this like $100 donation. So we created an online auction of experiences you can't buy anywhere else that didn't cost us anything. So it was cheesemonger for a day. Come sit in on our buyers club, which is where we taste everything that people have sent us and we decide if we want to sell it or not. So it was all these behind the scenes experiences and we raised $10,000 and I just couldn't believe it. So again, no cost to us. And then giving people this cool experience that they want. Last but not least, we host what we call a charitable cheese cause. That we did it before the pandemic and we just brought it back this year. And for us, it's again, a win-win. So we allow a nonprofit to come in. They get a portion of all revenue from the sales. And in fact, from the ticket sales, our goal is just to cover our costs. It's not to make any profit. So really they're getting 100% of profits. Then when it's coming in on an off night, it's getting us exposure, people to know about our space. And then 2, if they choose to buy anything, then we've recouped some of those costs. So for us, that's been a great way to become a community member, to truly be creating a community tasting room where it's used for so many things beyond just cheese and gives us exposure. And I'll just have you know that doing good is good for business, as Joel will also say. Every one of those things got us media mentions and awards and stuff like that, because we were doing things in a unique and creative way that I always say, I like to create a buzzworthy business. It means I don't have the money to go pay a PR company. So if I'm doing something, does it really seem cool enough that a lot of people want to talk about it and get involved with it? So we always run things through that filter and all the different stakeholders involved. And that includes our philanthropy. Where I'll end it is to say, I love this organization. I live here, I give here. I'm sure I'm, again, proselytizing to people who are watching this, but you can go on I Live Here, I Give Here, and it has a list of all these local nonprofits, and you can look them up by category, like mental health, unhoused, and homelessness, and all of these things, and find an organization to support. And back to Summer's point, no contribution, I think, is ever too small. Having worked in nonprofits, in fact, they love the more monthly income that they can count on of $10 than a random one they have to work really hard for. Actually, they love them all, but we do love them all. Yes, really hard to work for that one-off that then you can't count on in your budget for next year, but you can count on your regular sustainers is what we call it, or I've called it in the past. So we participate, Antonelli's Cheese participates in I Live Here, I Give Here, Amplify Austin each March 6th and 7th-ish usually. So good. For the record, we match our team's donation $10 per employee. There's 2 reasons for that. We work in food service. None of our people are getting rich in food service, including me. And I don't want to say, hey, you don't make a huge paycheck and the cost of living is going up in Austin, go make a huge contribution. What I do want to say is whatever you want to support with $10 is important to us. You're important to us, and what is meaningful to you. So we will match it. So for our 50 employees, give or take at different times of the year, that turns, if we just made a $500 donation, that turns it into a $1,000 donation. And we show our team that we care about. We get to support all these new orgs. Now I like to go on their website and look at the corporate who's where, and we're like the bottom of it. And it's fine because I'm like, we're on the list. So that was a lot to say, except that if you are a small business owner out there, and also the hypocrisy to me, or the irony, is that we're the ones who get asked for all the donations for little leagues, for school charities. It's not the big orgs. I'm sorry. It's not, as far as I know, Tesla and IBM and all these, and they do amazing things and they make big contributions in certain places, but you can't even find somebody to give something. What are they going to give to your school's basketball program, right? So it's those of us who are living on the margins who don't make a big profit who are giving.
You can walk in your door. Yeah.
So my final parts and parting words are, this holiday season, if you can, and you have the privilege and resources and time, which that is no small feat, research where you're buying your gifts from. I fall into supporting Amazon when I'm busy, when I'm going here. I have a lot of friends who work at Amazon. I'm not bad talking Amazon for my parents who live out in the country. It's a very good service to them. However, if I can slow down and intentionally and mindfully shop, we try to write that off during the holiday season and not shop from there specifically. So I'm walking the walk, and people will come support me and my small locally owned mom and pop business that is giving to everybody's schools. And so if you have that time and those resources, then to look and see who are mission-driven businesses, what do they do with the money? And if you can support them this holiday season, that would be my ask. And anytime you can shop local, we all greatly appreciate it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kendall. Again, so much good there. We're really grateful to you all. We're so grateful to you all for being here. I'm just going to end by reminding folks that next Tuesday is Giving Tuesday, and that is the day where everyone, frankly, around the world sort of dedicates themselves to giving back. And I live here, I give here as the community leader, so we'll hope that you'll join us. And Kendall, to your point, amplifyatx.org is where you can go not only to donate on Giving Tuesday, but also that's where you can go and see over 730 vetted nonprofits in Central Texas that you can choose from to participate in, or to volunteer, or to donate. So with that, I want to thank you all again so much for joining us today and sharing all of your incredible experience and information. Kristy and Kendall and Summer, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season, and thank you for all that you all do for our community.
Thanks.